All right, so there's been a lot on my mind lately, and it's mainly to do with the current political situation. As you can see, I'm driving, so I'm actually paying attention to the roads. I'm not going to be looking at the camera a lot. I hope you don't mind that I'm speaking my mind as I drive. I've just been really busy, and getting these videos up is not the easiest thing to do. But I feel that, as we move through this political process, this particular election year, 2016, has been, in my lifetime, the worst that I've ever seen. And particularly, I paid more attention to this one, so it may be just my subjective viewpoint that it's worse than it's ever been. But now, I will say this. I'm an independent, okay? And I tend to adopt a lot of right Republican views. Doesn't mean all of them. Okay, I believe in compromise. I believe that there's things that are good for the nation, and then there's my personal beliefs that which may not be particularly good for the nation. Okay, so with that being said, I do want to throw that out there. So if you hear any biases, that's fine. They are probably coming out from my subconscious, but ultimately I want us to look at things very objectively. And I want us to think about the way that we're handling this 2016 election year. And when it comes to Mr. Trump, when it comes to Mrs. Clinton, and when it comes to Mr. Sanders, we have gone too far. And what I say about this is, you don't know these people personally. You've seen what they put on the stage. You've seen the shows that they perform, like a puppet show. And somebody once told me recently, it takes an entirely different set of skills to be a politician than it does to be the President of the United States. They're playing a game. They're playing a game to win your support. They're playing a game to win you over. They're saying what they need to say to win you over. It is probably true that Donald Trump has figured it out that the American people are angry. Without question. And we are. But it's also very true that that's probably not how he's run his business his entire life. If you look at his business records, it probably wouldn't be the best of employment environment. And to yes, he's had a lot of failures. Any businessman has, so you can't play on his failures, number one. Any businessman who has any success, or that was not inherited, but any success in general on their own, generally has a ton of failures. Like I say in life, you got to fail your way to success. With that being said, we are attacking these candidates on a level that I've never seen before, and we need to stop. Because when you see the debates, you see how the Republican Party has acted like children, and they've flamed each other. They've mudslinged all this entire election, hating on each other, finding ways to criticize each other in this election process. And for me, that is a huge problem because I've never agreed with it. I don't think you should go after someone's character. You should attack their policies. Why it wouldn't work. Why do you believe it wouldn't work? And your goal is to go after the American people. And I mean not go after them as in attack them, but go after them as in what do they need and want. So it's important to understand that you need to relay that you're communicating to the American people and you're winning supporters that way. Will it win the election process or not? No, probably not. But the good thing is that you're being honest and you're maintaining integrity this entire time. Here's my problem with this so we've lambasted the Republican Party, the GOP, which I think needs reform anyway. We've lambasted them and saying they've acted like children, but here we are posting about how evil and Hitler-like and everything else that Mr. Trump is, or how socialist Mr. Sanders is, and truthfully, yes, he's a socialist, okay, and how evil that is for the nation and how wrong that is for us capitalists, and yes, I'm a capitalist, how wrong those things are. And although I don't agree with Mr. Sanders' way of going about these things, he has a lot of strong points. He has a lot of very, very valid points, and I can accommodate him for that because he does see a problem, like many people, and there's an understanding there, and there's a respect there. Yes, I respect Mr. Sanders. Do I agree with his way of going about it? Absolutely not. But I think there is a respect that we need to have respect for everyone that's competing in this presidential race. And yes, they have problems. They have character flaws. They have issues. They're not perfect. Hopefully, they have the integrity and the wisdom to know in their advanced years. I mean, they're, all 50 plus. In their advanced years, hopefully they have the integrity and wisdom to realize where their shortcomings are and adopt a counsel or a mentorship team that's allowing them to grow and expand their mindset. And I'm sure Mr. Trump has done this, but in this political race, again, it's all about playing off emotions. Mr. Sanders plays off the emotions of that corporate greed is bad. He plays off these emotions that, the rich are evil. And just like, Mr. Trump plays off this American hatred and anger about how we've moved so far away from our traditional values. See, you got to realize that these people are doing these things and they're saying these things to win. And unfortunately, our entire system is corrupted enough, and I don't mean corrupted from people, but I mean just from time itself. There's this thing of, entropy and this decay over a period of time where our system is kind of falling apart because we haven't maintained the values that we've created as a nation. So we play this political game, and they want the American masses, the media, the people in the game and the masses of America to play this game so they win their support. One thing I do want to ask you guys is to make sure that when you're voting, don't vote because someone's a male or a female or white or black or a Democrat or Republican or whatever it may be. Make sure you look up their views on things. Make sure you understand what you're voting for, and don't just go off of what their debates are and what they're saying during a debate, because remember, they're trying to play off these emotions in these games. Don't play off the hype. Look at their actual issues and how they plan about resolving these issues, and get yourself educated. And it doesn't mean that, because you're contrary to my views that you're wrong. Okay, so it means that we don't know exactly what's exactly going to work for the nation. We have an idea, but how many of the American people are actually economists? Even then, master economists, people who have doctorates in economy, the economics, do you think they all agree with each other? Absolutely not. They're going to have their own slants, because at some fundamental level, you got to realize there's theory involved. It's never been tested. These ideas have not been tested. Therefore, there is no absolute. This will work or this will not work. So if you really have a big problem with it, go run for president yourself. At this point, anybody can. You may not get much support if you don't have a record of, doing good deeds or things in this nation, but ultimately, you've got to realize that you do have the potential to do that. In the meantime, respect the people who are doing it and find someone that aligns with your views. Don't opt out of voting. Find someone who is the closest to your views if you don't agree. And I don't mean their personality. I don't mean their character. I mean the way that you agree with of them going about things. There's so much access to information out there that let's make America fair. Let's make the voting system fair again. What are you voting for as a person? What are you voting for? What do you believe? Don't vote because someone's black or white or that's crazy. Don't try to make history in your own timeline for your own personal selfish reasons, but vote for what you believe in. And that's the key here and the biggest problem I've had in the pain that I felt watching this election process, and that's where I really want people to kind of grow out of it. I mean, in reality, we got to grow the hell up, and we aren't doing that as a nation. We can mature as a nation, or we can decay as a nation and go back to our children like infancy and fight over these things, whereas we could resolve these issues and debate these issues like adults. And the goal of a debate is not to win. The goal of debate is to get more information, because honestly, if you win, what do you really accomplish? Are you making the decisions? Are you making decisions? No, you're not. So even if you do win and you successfully convince someone of your views, or you just shut someone down, and even though they still believe their own views, then what does that really accomplish? It accomplishes nothing, because both of you are not decision makers. Debate is for getting more information and expanding your view, and if you can look at it like that, then the political process is not as painful as you may think. And we've all just failed on this because we get so emotionally tied up into outcomes of, I want to win this debate. I know I'm right. Let's just drop the narcissism. Let's drop the selfishness. Let's drop the egos. Let's get to the point here. The point is that winning the debate with your friends is just not necessary. My goal is, when I talk to somebody about politics, I have a single objective. And that objective is to expand their view, to expand it. If I can expand it in one way or another, doesn't matter which way I expand it, I want them to start thinking, is this a possibility? Does this exist? So you'll see that I don't really adopt a view in my debates, as in absolutely not, unless someone's asking my personal opinion. What do you feel is right? And then I'll explain it. But at that point, I hope that the person just doesn't want to hear my views just to argue with me, but I hope they actually understand that I have views based on my own research and what I agree with. And that's not going to change because someone is more logical than me. That's not going to change because someone is better at debate than me. That's simply what I believe. And so the goal is that we have to start growing up and stop flaming these candidates, stop blasting them, and you think that makes you look better as a person, is to put someone down? Absolutely not. That does not make you look better as a person. Maybe it does to your friends, maybe you're cool putting down other people, maybe it's awesome to do that, but in reality, yeah, you can crack jokes about people among your friends, but if you're on a public forum like Facebook, that is your online reputation. Facebook, social media, anything, that's your online reputation. That is what that is like your online resume. Everything you have I'm telling you right now, anybody who applies for a job with me, I check their Facebook, I find them on social media, I see what they tweet, I see everything. I will openly admit that. I see absolutely everything I can find on this person online. If there's any negative comments, any foul language, any pictures that I find inappropriate, I'm judging your character based on what I see. Now, do I go and blast this person and put them all over Facebook and say they were horrible and they're bad people? No. You'll find that I try not to refute comments and tell people they're horrible people. I leave most of the comments. I don't generally delete comments off my channel. I probably have. I could count on one hand how many times I've deleted negative comments on my channel just because they were entirely inappropriate. Nobody else needs to see it. But for the most part, my objective is to allow people to express their views and act like adults. So I hope that you understand that this political process and the whole perspective I'm trying to provide here is that grow up. We live in an age now where everybody has a voice. We have the online presence, we all can speak, and I think we haven't quite adopted that as a nation and fully understood that our voice counts now. Unlike 300 years ago or 200 years ago, we didn't really, the common people didn't really have a voice, and we didn't have anywhere we could broadcast what we believe, and now it's changed. It's changed quite a bit, and so maintain your online reputation. Don't flame other people. Don't do what the GOP candidates have done in their political game. Don't insult people's character. Don't insult their work history. Don't insult their track records. Just look at their policies. What do they plan on actually accomplishing? Because I can tell you, somebody who stands on a mountain of failures and has had not one success is one success or one failure away from another success. You don't know at that tipping point in which they're going to make a success. So don't say, oh, you failed this many times and you have no capability of ever doing anything right. No. Now, do you want to take your chances with that as a nation? Maybe, maybe not. They may fail a couple more times, but you know what? Every president in history has had failures. And the history books write based on what they favor. Hey, Abe Lincoln, great president, right? Well, I'm telling you, he failed a lot. You know how many times he ran for office? A lot. And I'm talking Senate, he ran for president, a lot. He failed a whole bunch of times before he actually got into office in the first place. So, and then he finally hit that tipping point where it worked for him. So don't be afraid of failure. But certainly protect your online reputation. Certainly protect who you are. And don't stoop to levels that these GOP candidates have done during their debates and each other. And Mr. Trump, unfortunately, attacking, Mrs. Megyn Kelly because she was doing her job. And yeah, it was a low blow. Okay, that's fine. She hit, but it was a legitimate question. And it's understanding that that makes the difference. It's understanding that, you know, she's a journalist. She's going to ask the tough questions, because if she doesn't ask, somebody else will. And it wasn't aggressive. It wasn't like, I'm trying to take you down. It was just a legitimate question. She was doing her job. So we got to let these personal battles go, and realize that she was speaking for the American people, and Mr. Trump unfortunately took it personally. And that's okay. Sometimes people do. And I'm telling you, that's an area that he's going to have to develop. Is he's going to have to work on looking at long-term outcomes of his immediate, in-the-moment reactions. And as a person, yeah, that's where he might have to do some personal work, you know. But as a president, it's going to be a growth process for him if he wins the election, which he might. Or, you know, and it's likewise, you know, he didn't break the law. He just has areas of development that are a little more pronounced than some people from a character standpoint. And if you look at, you know, Mr. Cruz, he's got his own weak points. If you look at, you know, Mr. Sanders, he's got his own weak points too. They all have their problems, and it's not about making decisions in this election process based on their personal problems, but it's actually looking at the powers of the President of the United States. What powers do they have? Because they're going to say a lot of stuff, but actually a lot of stuff requires congressional support. So they can't pass a lot of this stuff on their own. They can't pass these without congressional support. They're going to introduce it maybe, but they can't pass it. And so you've got to realize that the president has limited powers. And so you're not voting for the destiny of the nation. What you're doing is we still are in a democratic nation. We're in a democracy. And it may not be perfect. Capitalism's not perfect. Capitalism has its problems, but it's closest. We're the only nation that does that. And if you can see it this way, adopt this mature viewpoint. Not that this is the most mature viewpoint, but I think that if we all have areas of development, we all learn to develop and grow and learn from these processes, and look at other people's commentary objectively, and realize that Mr. Trump is not his supporters are not an exact representation of him. So you're going to have the lowest class people that are doing things that Mr. Trump ideally did not want to happen. Does he condone it? No, he has the ability to condone it, but he doesn't. Does he warrant those things? Yeah, he made a few mistakes. I will say that he made a few mistakes, I think, but hopefully he learns from these lessons. And if he doesn't, then maybe he has a characteristic that you shouldn't vote for. But certainly don't flame him as a person. You know, I've said things in my past that I don't particularly appreciate about my own character. So does that make me a bad person? Does that make me incapable of leading an organization? Absolutely not. It's just learning from those mistakes and moving forward. And you'll see that he does come forth after a certain period of time, and he admits the mistakes that he makes occasionally. And he's getting better at it, because he realizes now that politics is not just running a business. It's an entirely separate set of skills that he hasn't quite developed yet. And he's learning that. Now, as a president, that's more of a businessman. President is running a business, but running for president is an entirely different process. It's politics. It's the ability to speak. Obama has an amazing ability to speak. He would have been very difficult to beat. And I disagree with Mr. Trump in saying that Mitt Romney should have won. Mitt Romney was going up against a real force. Obama has an amazing amount of charisma, an amazing ability to speak. He played the political game very well. And so he did it very professionally too. I will say that. He did it very well. And so full credit to President Obama for that. So just understand that there are things that you can respect. So, you know, one thing I think that we should do is find something positive to say about all the candidates in some way, shape, or form, and start thinking positively. Because you know what? There's been studies about negative thinking and how it affects your brain. And I'm telling you, me being born in the environment that I was born in, and it was a relatively negative environment, it didn't make it easy to be a positive thinker. But I tell you now is that positive thinking, it cleans your brain out from junk and starts thinking of positives. What can I find about each candidate that's positive? Like, I can probably spit out positives of each candidate right now. It's unnecessary, but the point is I could. And so because I look at it very objectively, and it's hard not to get emotionally involved because these people are really going to